All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. It's the big glass edition. Today I'm going to be giving my review of this HK Ultra 3 WF watch. And here's the watch. And so I'm going to keep it simple and not make this video too long, but I'm going to give you a two-part review on this. Number one, or the first part, is going to be as a $22 watch, smartwatch, device, whatever you want to call it. For that, just on its own merits, getting a watch for $22, whether that be a dumb watch, an analog watch, a smartwatch, this watch is a 10 out of 10. Let's start with the hardware. So, hardware-wise, it has a knockoff trail loop band, and it also came with a silicone-style band like this. This is not the one that it came with. Like I said, I paid less than $22, including tax and shipping, and it came with these two style bands. As you saw in the unboxing video, I had a black band like this. One thing of note is that with these cheaper bands, yes, a lot of times you can go on Amazon or you buy these cheap watches, and these bands are not hard to replicate. The problem with these bands, and I'll just give you a forewarning, is that the design with the connector can get loose. Like these little rubber pieces can get loose and fall out. They have little springs in them. And when that happens, like they're not going to connect to the watch and they're just going to slide in and out. This one didn't do it, but this one did. And the fitment is not as good. So whenever you're putting it on the watch, you can actually scrub it and scrape it off, and it's already cheap. So just keep that in mind. Like, you may need more than one of these because they may not hold up that well. But I'm going to say this like trail loop or sport loop knockoff is definitely a good band. It's stretchy, it's comfortable, it's nice. So in terms of bands, like, you know, I'm going to say 10 out of 10 because, again, it was $22. This one has these three guys here, and it attaches, it stays secure, it feels solid. There is some fraying going on here, but that's not abhorrent or anything like that. As far as the design and just the sturdiness of this watch, I'm going to say 10 out of 10. I mean, this is definitely a metallic frame here. I don't know if this is aluminum or steel. It feels a bit harder than aluminum. When you get this watch, I would feel confident that if I fell and rolled with this watch, it might get dented and scratched, but it's not going to get messed up that badly. It definitely feels sturdy. I have not dropped it or fallen on it. Like, the screen feels solid. It doesn't, I mean, honestly, this screen, it doesn't scratch as easily as a regular Apple Watch's screen. Now, this is a sapphire screen. Yeah, I mean, this definitely feels like, I don't know, maybe it shatters easier, so it's harder. I don't know. I didn't want to test that out, but you know, the buttons feel pretty good. I mean, this feels pretty close to an Apple Watch Ultra. I did not submerge this in water. There is a little app thing on here that you can click and it'll vibrate and supposedly get the water out. I'm not testing that. This is a $22 watch. I doubt you can submerge this watch, but maybe. Just from the software usage, again, that's going to be at a 10 out of 10 because for $22, I can get text messages on my wrist. I can actually open up the phone dialer. I can actually dial a number and it'll call. And, you know, you can take the call and speak to the person on this device. That's really dope for $22. And you can not only do that, but you can play music or play media from, you know, your phone on this device. Just overall, it's definitely worth it. Like, if you've never had a smartwatch and you just want something cheap, this is going to be a 10 out of 10. You may not feel like it's a 10 out of 10, but you're definitely not going to regret buying it. I don't regret buying this watch. Definitely measured expectations, and surprisingly, going back into the software, I feel like the heart rate monitor is solid. I went on a walk and I did some activities, and it measured me pretty accurately. I know what my sitting heart rate is, what it is when I'm walking, running, and this thing was pretty accurate. Now, I will say the step counter, I think that was accurate too. You know, the screen, it doesn't have auto brightness, but like the screen is super legible. Like, you can change the, you know, you can change the screen, the wallpapers or the dials pretty easily. There's a negative to that too. So whenever you get to the app and you're looking at the other ones that are not pre-installed, most of them you have to pay for. So that is a drawback. And what do you expect at $22? I will say the compass, when I was using it against my iPhone, it was a little off. I do not think the blood oxygen sensor is accurate. You know, I think it will get a read to you, but whether or not it's really reading you, I don't know. So I wouldn't trust that as much. But the software experience, like I said, for what it is, like here's what the weather app looks like. It's not connected to my phone right now, but you know, that's nice. The screen times out pretty quickly. And I'll also say the wrist up notification or setting is nice. It works well. I actually raised my hands a couple times, waved them around just to see if it was like off, and it would just, you know, cut on for anything and anybody, which is a concern, and it didn't. So that's pretty accurate. I would say, honestly, and this is kind of a spoiler alert, but this phone would be best served as an entry-level first smartwatch. I want notifications on my wrist. I want to be able to take calls on my wrist. Perfect. You know, as long as your phone's nearby, you're going to be fine. Secondarily, I would say this is a great G-Shock watch replacement. Now, hear me out. G-Shock watches have been great for decades, but now that we've moved into the I need a notification immediately era, I need just information overload, like this is a great replacement for a G-Shock watch. Like I said, it's sturdy, the band is sturdy. Again, if water submersion could be a problem, but other than that, like I think, you know, this is, again, at $22, even if, you know, you had a cheaper watch that couldn't really be submerged and did everything that a G-Shock watch does, I would say that's a good deal for $22 for any watch. Just think about that. Chew on that a little bit. Think about what your G-Shock does for you. I mean, at this point, they're kind of like, they're not status symbols because they're not super expensive, but they're just like niche kind of, you know, if you know, you know, or just kind of collector's items where, ooh, you have this one, you have that one. The function of the G-Shock now is really not as important. Also, you know, this thing can record a voice memo. So, you know, when you click on it, like the microphone is not going to be like a studio microphone, but you can record a voice memo on this thing. The drawbacks are that it just simply falls short if you're looking for something anywhere close to an Apple Watch Ultra or a regular Apple Watch, or even this Amazfit Active 2, which I highly recommend if you want something that can do Android or iOS. I think that this watch is super underrated. You can get like a mesh band from Walmart or some other band from Walmart and just rock this out. Check out my, you know, video on this, the unboxing, the review, that kind of thing. And you'll see this is a great watch, and I actually compare it to this watch. But some of the shortcomings on this watch are due to the Apple ecosystem. So you cannot reply to text messages. You can't see images and GIFs and videos in the notifications like you can on an Apple Watch. That's a drawback. It doesn't have auto brightness. To properly explain this phone in terms of it being like a main daily smartphone or smartwatch for somebody who's already had a smartwatch, it would be like, and this is comparing it to the Apple Watch Ultra, it would be like buying a vehicle on the ultra cheap only to find out it doesn't have an engine or transmission, no drivetrain, and that you have to drive it by foot, like by pedal. And maybe that's a little bit harsh. So on this watch, you can see phone calls. Like, I'm not going to go through my phone log, but you can see recent phone calls, you can see text messages and things like that. Also, on this watch, whenever you connect it to your phone, it connects via Bluetooth like most all smartwatches, but it acts like a speaker. So when you're watching audio, you're watching video, and things like that, it starts playing the sound. And yes, I can go to my phone and set it to go back to my iPhone, but then what do I do about notifications on this device? So that's problematic. On the app, and this is one of the biggest things that's a problem, and I know a lot of times on the Apple Watches you don't interact with the app as much. It's ad driven. I mean, for $22, that's what you got to expect. So anytime I go to different menus, you know, I'm seeing ads, and you have to wait 5 seconds, and it's just not as clean. Measuring blood oxygen is not going to be there, and just several functions that like you can't play music off of Spotify and Apple Music like you would on these other two devices that I have. So that's kind of problematic. And You know, you can load pictures on there, but it's just, there's a lot of figuring out to do on the app, and I'm not quite sure how to do that. The biggest drawback of this is just the overall experience, where it's really choppy and there's some strong limitations. And if you're used to having a premium smartwatch, or even a good mid-range, premium-ish smartwatch, you're gonna get frustrated with this pretty quickly, even though it's $21. The battery does last a while, and there is a find me function. So as long as it's connected to your phone, you can press a button and it will chime and say, I'm here, I'm here. And things like the calculator do work. In that car that you have to drive by foot, you do have windows in there that you can roll the windows down. So I'm not saying that, but like, it's not a replacement for your smartwatch. Like, you can do a lot of things, and if you're not really dailying a smartwatch, or you just like, I need something, the cheapest thing I can find, you will be happy with this. But if you're coming from an Apple Watch experience, if you're coming from a Galaxy Watch experience, it's just not going to be there. You can take pictures with your phone to use it as like a shutter button. It does tell you the date. You can see a calendar here. So I guess as I'm talking about this device, like, it is a great device for the price. Even if it were $50, I would say it would be worth it ish, because it looks like the Apple Watch Ultra, and if you want that aesthetic and you can get like a mesh band, it can look super dope. And a big part of the Apple Watch is it looks really good on your wrist. There's brand recognition, and it's just a dope, classy looking device. So I get that, but just from a functionality standpoint, it's going to be frustrating if you have an Apple device. And all right, folks, thank you for watching the video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. It's kind of hard to convey the quirks and features that kind of make this watch frustrating when comparing it to a normal premium or mid-range smartwatch. Definitely as a G-Shock replacement, it'll be fine given the price and everything like that. One quirky thing is that you can use it as a shutter button and a viewfinder, but you have to open the watch app on your phone and then open the camera app in that watch app in order to use the phone that way. Whereas on the the Apple Watch, you can just press the camera button. It automatically launches the camera on your phone, and you can rock and roll that way. Also, if you're familiar with Ultra devices, when they get in a dark setting, the screen will turn red. That is a very dope feature. So little nuanced things like that are not going to be picked up. For instance, also, when I have my watch going to the gym, my gym membership barcode will pull up on my Apple Watch, and then I can use that watch to get in the gym. You cannot do that with this watch. And, if you're going somewhere and you put directions in your phone, it'll pull up on your watch, and you'll get haptic feedback on your Apple Watch. Just so many things that are available in the iOS ecosystem or just on good smartwatches are not polished on this watch. And then also there's inconsistencies in the build quality. You may get one and the compass may be perfect. On this one, it was probably about 15 degrees off, or 15%, off directionally, because I was testing it against my iPhone, which is typically pretty accurate. And again, some of the sensors, I just don't know. I don't think this has an altimeter. I don't think it has a skin temperature sensor, that kind of thing. It definitely doesn't have crash detection. So take it for what it's worth. It is a great effort for $22. It's a 10 out of 10, because thinking about the watches, just walk into Walmart and see what you can get for that price point. And this watch will blow any of those out of the water. So with that being said, I highly recommend getting this watch and just checking it out for yourself. If you don't have a day-to-day smartwatch, if you do, it's just going to be like a novelty, kind of fun little, let me see what this is type experiment. Regardless, I will see you in the next video.